Welcome to the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick, Mike Dempsey, and Brian Sexton have all the news and information to get you ready for today's game.
Into the end zone, touchdown!
The Publix Tailgate Show is brought to you by the University of Florida, Farah and Farah, Yucatan Guacamole, Baptist Health, and by EverBank. The Publix Tailgate Show starts right now.
Good morning from EverBank Stadium in Jacksonville and the Hyundai Studios inside the Miller Electric Center. Brian Sexton along with Mike Dempsey, and we welcome you into the first hour of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. We have the Titans and Jaguars coming up at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Hello, Mike Dempsey.
Good morning,
How
Brian.
are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. I think we've put the entire incident from last Sunday to rest. The league came out with just one fine
right
for Evan Ingram yesterday. And we know now that Trevor Lawrence is on injured reserve. We probably won't see him again this year. And that going forward, it's Mac Jones, and they're back in the division. Well, let's just put it this way. Jaguars have 5 games to end a 5-game losing streak. That's where we are at this point. And they'll do it with Mac Jones under center.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that have gone wrong this season. And you know, just Trevor being shut down is the latest and kind of the icing on the cake, if you want to look at it that way. And look, Mac Jones played well off the bench last week. Let's give him some credit because, you know, we were rightfully burying him for his performance, I think, in those 2 starts where the Jags only produced 313 yards of offense in 2 entire games. Much better pressed into service last week, so hopefully he kind of carries that over into the final 5-game stretch.
Yeah, that was a theme that I followed this week. He had his best quarter of football, his best performance in that final quarter. Does that mean maybe he's finally going to settle in? Well, we're going to find out. These next 5 weeks are very important for the Jaguars to get something going, but also for him personally, who is just here on a 1-year deal. So the opportunity is distinct, and hopefully he is able to relax today, not say everything's on the line for me and this team. And he did sort of intimate that, and we'll get to that coming up here. But let's get to the top stories of the week. And the Jaguars have a 5-game window until their season is over. There's nothing shiny to play for, no division title, no conference trophy, no Super Bowl ring. But the head coach doesn't expect his team to just go through the motions until January. And I am once again challenged by my technology. 1 second here, and I will start it back up. You heard me, by the way, test this a moment ago, right?
I did. It sounded fantastic.
No, I don't, because that's up to me. That's up to me to make sure that these guys don't, throw in a towel, wave the white flag. So that's on me to make sure that doesn't happen, and I won't let that happen. And two, we got great leadership, in that locker room, and I'll lean on those guys to help me in that.
Mike, motivation comes from within. This is professional football. These guys should be motivated. But the coach sets the culture, the focus, and he's got to have this team mindful of every single game going forward.
Look, it's also reality and human nature that when you don't have something out there to play for in that sense, that immediate sense, that there is some kind of a letdown sometimes. And I do think that the players, no matter how much of a long shot or far-fetched you want to look at the Jags if they won last week, making a playoff push down the stretch, having to win out, whatever. I think they hung on that, and as long we got a quarterback back, and if we could beat Houston, that's the main team we've got to reel in. Let's see what happens, because we've got a winnable schedule, and Houston has a tough schedule. Now that's all out the window. So what do you do? Yes, you should be motivated as a professional athlete. You should be motivated just by pride. You should be motivated by the money you're making. And for a lot of these guys, they don't know where they're going to be playing football next year. And if that doesn't motivate you, I don't know what will.
I think we saw an increased level of intensity after the hit on Trevor last week. You saw the way that they just powered the ball down the field with the running game. That was probably the most inspired running game I've seen all year. I don't know whether you can expect it to carry forward into another week, especially when you know that Trevor won't be out there. But maybe there's a fire, a spark, something from this team from that moment.
There may be a spark. I don't think it'll be from that moment, in my opinion, because, look, why does it take that kind of moment to get you that fired up to run if this is what you're capable of doing, right, and your season's on the line, why aren't you doing that from the opening gun? They went into halftime, and I do think, and we talked about this on the postgame last week, Brian, if that incident occurs early in the third quarter, I think that might carry you all the way through to the end of the game. And I felt like there was, that initial burst of energy and enthusiasm, and then it just kind of naturally waned because you take that break at halftime. So expect that to carry over for another week, I think would be asking a lot.
All right, now Mac Jones is the quarterback. And going into the final 5-game stretch, I asked Doug, what do you need to see from your quarterback?
We just want Mac to be Mac, right? Don't have to do anything special, right? Just make the plays that come to him. And deliver the football where it needs to go. Put us in the right run if we need to. Change protection. All that stuff he's capable of doing. And I thought he did a nice job of that Sunday. We had the 2 drives there for touchdowns and the 2-point conversion, obviously. And he sees the field extremely well. Great communication on the sideline and all things that have shown us that he's very capable, to lead this team.
When he started those 2 games, he's not guaranteed the next week, right? And like you were alluding to, Brian, he's playing for his next contract somewhere, be it back here in Jacksonville as a backup or a chance to compete as a starter somewhere. And I think when you're in that, maybe this is the only chance I get, there's a lot of pressure on you. Coming off the bench last week, you don't have time to think about it. You're just kind of freewheeling, letting it go. And I think now that he knows, look, I've got 5 games stretched out in front of me. I don't have to put my entire resume on tape today. I can play a little bit looser. Hopefully that helps him.
What I liked from him as the game went along, because in the third quarter he was uneven. I mean, he overshot a couple of guys, put the ball short once or twice, and then he settled in, and he made good throws in the fourth quarter, and it felt like, okay, this is the Mac Jones that the Patriots had in his rookie season. And perhaps, now remember, he's playing with Brian Thomas Jr., Parker Washington, Devin Duvernay. I mean, he's having to create, but hopefully on the practice field this week, he's been able to develop some semblance of a relationship with these guys. And both Thomas and Parker Washington had productive games last week.
Oh, yeah. Parker Washington got blanketed with targets. Brian Thomas has been productive pretty much anytime the Jags have thrown him the ball consistently, right? So it doesn't really matter. I think he's just got that kind of talent. But we'll see if that carries over for Parker Washington, who had his most productive game of the season last week.
So you heard Doug say he just wanted Mac to be Mac. Mm-hmm. I couldn't help but ask Mac, what does that mean?
I think it's pretty straightforward. The people that know me know, I love this game, love to have fun, and I feel like I did that at times on Sunday, and I'm going to carry that to the next, game here, and hopefully the guys around me know that. I think since I've been here, just they know when I'm in the huddle, it's about having fun and letting it loose. So that's what I'm going to do again.
Look, he wears his emotions on his sleeve a lot more than Trevor Lawrence does, and I think players respond to that. Yeah. We've seen that at moments with Mac Jones, and why would you want him to change? He's gotten to this point in his career being who he is, and that's what he's got to do. He's just got to play at the high end of that.
Well, and he should have an opportunity to be able to do that today. Based on what the offensive line did for him last week, he wasn't touched. And you had Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson Jr., who came in probably the most productive sack tandem in the league. They had 20 last week and didn't sniff the quarterback. I think going into a game against what is arguably one of the best defensive lines in football, mostly inside, but really good, I think if you're Mac Jones today, you feel pretty confident.
I would think so. That performance by the offensive line's got to give everybody a little bit of confidence. And, it was nice to see Walker Little get that contract extension and then back it up with good play and not allow his quarterback to get hit. So, yeah, I mean, as much as you can be confident on a 2-win team this late in the season, why not?
Now, the question is, can you be confident in the running game? Because if you can't get the running game going, they're going to have problems. Mac Jones needs the help of the running game, I think. It's not easy to do with Jeffrey Simmons in the middle of that line, who I think is one of the better defensive tackles in the NFL. He's clearly one of the better. I think he's the best next to a guy named Chris Jones. He is fantastic. Press Taylor this week talked about getting the run game going, which they haven't done very well in recent weeks.
You always want to do what you can to stay ahead of the sticks. I think that's a big part of it. Runs on 2nd and 10, 2nd and 9, they're not always the most exciting. You may have a productive run that's still setting you up for a 3rd and long situation. So just being able to mix and match of when we're trying to run the ball, making sure we're creating ideal looks, whether it's just matchups or the numbers in the box, or staying in those manageable situations is always key to being able to do that. It's not an easy group to run on. It's a very good defensive line, particularly on the inside, and they've always done a very good job stopping the run, just personnel, and then you add in the new scheme with Coach Wilson, and they make it really hard on you.
I think easier said than done. You talked about that kind of push that they got emotionally and started running the ball late in the second quarter last week. Even with that, combined, Bigsby and Etienne averaged less than 4 yards per carry. Yeah. Bigsby was right at 4. Etienne was well under. So, we'll see. I think the Tennessee Titans' number one job today, they're going to come out and try to make the Jags one-dimensional.
All right. Looking at the other side of the ball, we'll see Calvin Ridley, and that's a big storyline for this game since Ridley last year was a 1,000-yard, 8-touchdown guy here. Ryan Nielsen, through the course of his career, has prepared for Calvin Ridley more than once, and the question came up, what have you seen from him in a Titans uniform this season?
Speed, elite speed, take the top off defense, huge deep ball threat. Like, we have to protect the deep ball against him. Like, make him catches. He's going to get us catches. The guy's a really good football player. He's going to get us catches. We're going to try to eliminate as much as we can, but we can't give up the explosives over the top.
Going to be a challenge today for Tyson Campbell because he's been on the injury report with a quad that he suffered last week against Houston, and yet he's going to be the guy who's going to be primarily asked to handle Calvin Ridley.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley's had an interesting season. I mean, one of extremes. He's gone through stretches. Early in the season, he had a stretch of 3 games where he caught 2 balls in 3 games, and he was playing. He wasn't injured. And, then he had a 10-catch game for 143 yards. He's been more productive lately, although held to only 2 receptions last week in a blowout loss. He's motivated to put up some numbers today.
Well, and Tennessee has a strong-armed quarterback in Will Levis. Now, he wasn't the most accurate, and he's been in and out of the lineup with injury this year, but they're a team that likes to throw the ball down the field. They've changed. We were so used to Derrick Henry, and they would pummel the middle of your defense until you brought the safety to the line of scrimmage, and then they try to send it over the top. They're a little different on offense this year.
Big time. And we saw a couple weeks ago the 98-yard touchdown to Nick Westbrook-Akina, and he has got 8 touchdowns in the last 8 weeks. And he only has 20 catches on the season. He scored in 7 of those 8 games. He had a 2-touchdown game in there. So you think, how long can this keep up? Well, I don't know, but it has kept up for a while. So you can't just focus your attention on Ridley because he can hurt you as well.
And former Dallas Cowboy Tony Pollard is in the mix. He's got 8 touchdowns on the season, and he's capable of taking the ball from anywhere on the field. He hasn't done it that often this year, but he's still a guy who can make you pay.
Well, this is a team that beat the same Houston Texan team that you lost to at home last week, just the week before. So despite the loss to the Commanders last week, they're capable of giving the Jags more than they want today.
One thing the Jaguars may have to work with, Mike, is that the Tennessee offensive line is banged up. And perhaps we can see another strong performance from Mason Smith, who last week, he got reached on a couple plays, but overall had his most productive outing since we saw him in training camp. I was kind of hoping that we would see Jordan Jefferson on the field, the two of them. You're going to have to strengthen this defensive line in the offseason, whether it's in free agency or the draft. But if you knew that these were 2 guys that you could count on, that would be something good to have in your back pocket.
Right. And, well, you can see growth today, but that won't necessarily mean that you're affecting the quarterback on a regular basis. Too many times this year, Brian, we've seen teams, be it Houston, multiple times, Cleveland, when teams were in the midst of giving up tons of sacks and the Jags pass rush just doesn't get to the quarterback as much as these other teams are. So I'm going to be very curious to see if they can take advantage of that beat-up offensive line.
And it's that lack of push in the middle that's causing guys like Trayvon and Josh on the outside to get doubled. They were easier to just focus on those 2 guys and handle it one-on-one. Devon Hamilton has to have a strong game today. He has been uneven this year. Mason Smith is a guy that they're going to count on. And then last week we did see Eric Armstead play more of his natural position inside. If they're going to get some wins here, the defense is going to need to play better, and that means they're going to need Eric Armstead inside.
Well, I think we all have been calling for that, and it's been somewhat of a mystery why that's been allowed to not be the case this long, but hopefully down the stretch that'll get rectified.
One more area of note that we really haven't had to talk about, the Jaguars long snapper and the Jaguars punter this week were both on the injury report. We didn't see much of anything from either one of them on the practice field, and your punter is one of the best punters in the league and an absolute weapon that can really help Mac Jones by pinning a defense deep and maybe flipping the field, pinning an offense deep, letting the defense flip the field today. Hopefully for the Jags, they have both of those guys on the field.
Yeah, no doubt. And Matisic, you never think about the long snapper, but he was the best in the biz last year, and he makes a lot of tackles on special teams, or at least gets involved in a lot of plays, on coverage after he snaps. So you'd like that. Obviously, those are 2 areas where you haven't had to question how good the Jags are because they've been top of the league in those areas, and we'll find out if they're able to keep that up today.
All right, we have a lot more ahead here on the Publix Tailgate Show, including
every quarterback's just a little different. Maybe how they call the plays, maybe how they do the cadence, maybe how they move around the pocket.
That's Walker Little, he who signed the new contract last week and played very well against the Houston Texans. He stops by to talk about his check and his performance in this week's Baptist Health Player Interview. But next, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco's perspective. This is the Public Tailgate Show, and you're listening on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
The kick is up. It's good!
Score winning sub deals this Jaguar season at Firehouse Subs. Receive 50% off on any sub when the Jaguars kick a field goal of 40 yards or more. It's a bold deal for the bold city. Download the Firehouse Subs app for offer details. Redeemable only at participating Jacksonville and Orlando area restaurants. Only available in the Firehouse Subs app. Football and Miller Lite. Duval's greatest pairing. Can cracks and kickoff. Tailgates going well past postgame. Sunday night overtime.
For the touchdown.
Followed by Monday morning pride. Knocking on bar tops for luck. Kicking back on any given Sunday. You never forget the way some things taste. Jags football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get one interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
You say there's nothing quite like the feel of the open road when you ride a motorcycle. You know it takes concentration, knowledge, and skills beyond those required to drive a car. Ride Smart Florida would like to take this opportunity to remind you to enjoy the road, but to always ride smart. S-M-A-R-T. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmet. Ride and control. Train regularly and get endorsed. Visit RideSmartFlorida.com for more details. Do you ride smart? This message is provided by the Florida Department of Transportation.
And the Publix Tailgate Show continues from the Miller Electric Center in the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville. Brian Sexton and Mike Dempsey with you. We have the Jaguars and Titans coming up from Nissan Stadium in Nashville at 1 o'clock. Until then, we'll get you ready for the game. JP Shadrick is in for the next 2 hours until kickoff. And then, of course, all the post-game breaking down the action from Nashville. You did a little preview, as you always do, with Pete Prisco, and Mac Jones obviously is the lead story for the Jaguars today over the final 5 games of the season.
Yeah, curious to see how he plays going forward, but we started off with Pete, just looking back at last week and what he thought about his performance off the bench.
Well, he was significantly better than he was in any of the other starts, so it was progress. Now we'll see. You go out on the road, different environment, you're the starter again. It's one thing to come off the bench, it's another thing to be the starter. So we'll see. But it was clearly better than what he put on tape in his 2 starts. So I think that's progress for him. and it's a good thing. And who knows? Maybe he can go out and play better and maybe get a win.
You know, he got into a situation, Pete, with the whole team. Obviously, you're down in the fourth quarter. It's go, 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 and up-tempo. And I feel like you and I talk about this every single week. And I understand if you go up-tempo and you go 3 and out, you might go 3 and out that much quicker. But I feel like the Jags almost have nothing to lose by at least sprinkling in this kind of mindset a little bit earlier and just, having that feeling that we've got nothing to lose. Let's push it.
Mike, I'm with you. I've been preaching that for a long time. I know you have as well. And it's something, why not? What's the alternative? Is the fact that you don't move the football? It's like the old adage in the NFL. Well, you'd rather have a nice time-consuming drive to keep your defense off the field. Would you rather have that than 3 points, or would you rather have a 65-yard touchdown to your wide receiver? I mean, it makes no sense to me. And I think they're not the only team in the league guilty of that. I think teams are letting defenses dictate to them, and maybe it's time for offenses to take it back, and Jacksonville should probably play a little faster.
Look, the Jags talked last week about, hey, we're still in this thing, right? If we beat the Texans, that's a team we really have to chase down. And obviously they didn't, and now they've been mathematically eliminated, Pete. And Doug Peterson said he is not concerned about their motivation, said that's on him to get that out of them. How do you think they respond now with 5 weeks to go without the playoffs as a carrot dangling out there?
Well, anytime you take the field, you're on the field. You're accountable for your actions, and that means the people are going to be watching. Whether it's the Jacksonville organization, somebody else, the tape doesn't lie. So I think you got to go out there and play, and you can't pull up. You can't play, lackadaisical. Sometimes you can get hurt in those situations. So I think you just got to go out and play for yourself as much as anybody. The team right now isn't going anywhere, but play for yourself and go out there and put the best football you can put on tape. And I think that ultimately that's what they have to do.
All right, since you and I last spoke, Walker Little got his contract extension, which was the news of it came out right before the game last week. Pete, so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think why they rushed that, A, and B, I thought he actually played well last week. He did a nice job. And so he, after getting the contract extension, he against good pass rushers, he settled in there nicely and did a really nice job at left tackle. But this is a team that doesn't usually give out contract extensions during the season, or at least they say they don't. And you go and extend the guy. I don't know what message that sends. I don't know why they rushed. When you look at it now, if they draft first overall, that takes them out of the tackle market. So that means, what are you going to do with that first overall pick? Because you're clearly not taking a quarterback.
Right, but if they didn't do this, let's play devil's advocate here, and Walker Little ended up re-signing somewhere else, then you're almost forced to take a tackle at that point in time, even if you don't think he's the best guy on the board, or is that not the way you see it?
Yeah, I think I would have waited the next 5 weeks and see how he played. If he played really well, then I give him a contract extension after the season. If he didn't play really well, then you got to go back into the pool, whether it's in the first or second round. You got to find a left tackle. So yeah, I just think they rushed it, and there was no reason to rush it.
All right, like you said, you thought he played well last week. Where are some areas now of concern? I think that would have been a big one as you look at this team overall heading into the offseason. We're not to the offseason yet, but we see what's on the horizon here, Pete. If you say there's one area of glaring weakness that the Jags need to shore up this offseason or else, right now, what would you say that would be?
Middle of the offensive line, middle of the defensive line. I think that's a no-brainer. I think you have to get bigger, stronger, tougher, and more physical. And it's the same old song for that group. And Morse, veteran, but he hadn't played very well the last month of the season. Sheriff, broken down. He tries, but his body doesn't allow him to respond the way it should. So, and then on defensive interior, they played the other guy to play inside. He did last week a little bit more, Armstead, but he hadn't been what they thought he would be. I am encouraged by Mason Smith, so I think that's something to keep an eye on going forward. But I think the middle of both lines need to get bigger and stronger and tougher.
All right, you got two teams playing today that are not going to be going to the postseason. Pete, how do you see this one going in Nashville?
Will Levis has actually played really good football the last 4 weeks, and he's improving week by week. And I think it's going to be a tough challenge for them. I think that Will Levis will hit some shots down the field against that defense, and I think Tennessee has been a house of horrors over a lot of the times for Jacksonville, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a house of horrors here. So I think Tennessee wins the game.
Brian, you and I talked about this. I'll disagree with Pete on the Walker Little signing. I don't think it was premature. I could see why you might think that. But if Walker Little makes it to the end of the season, he has no incentive to re-sign with the Jags until he finds out what free agency is going to bear. And if you look at a lot of the rankings out there, he's considered a top 5 potential tackle on the market. So I could see him easily topping the deal that he got from the Jags. But from Walker Little's standpoint, he's got to stay healthy through the end of the season to get to that point. So I think this is a fair hedge on both sides.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that Walker wanted to get it done, especially for 3 years, 45. I think I told you last week, I look at this as a 2-year, $26 million deal instead. It seemed to me like it was a little on the low end, but he's a guy who hadn't been able to win the starting job, when he had Cam Robinson on the roster, and he hadn't been able to stay healthy. So why wouldn't he be willing to secure some money, understanding if he played well into 2025, maybe 2026, he's going to get another bite of the apple because he's a young guy. I thought it was a smart deal for the Jaguars.
And look, he has played well the last few weeks, right? And when they played their best football in the Trevor Lawrence era, he was starting in 2022.
You bet he was,
right?
At the end of the season.
Is he the best tackle in the league? No, but this contract is not a best tackle in the league kind of contract.
Well, and this is also not a really good offseason to go and need a left tackle. That was this year. There were 10 tackles that you could have taken in the first 3 rounds. 8 of them, I think, went in the first round. But you chose a wide receiver instead, and Brian Thomas Jr. is a revelation. I get why they did it. But 2024 was the year to take a tackle. 2025 is not. There's 2 or 3 in the first round of the draft. If you're looking for that kind of guy that you can set at left tackle and rely on him in 2025, you've got him already in Walker Little.
Right, and you might have been able to get one of those, but you would have been almost shoehorned into having to go that direction with your top pick.
Right.
Because they're probably going to be in position if they want a top tackle because of the quarterback-needy teams up there that they might have their pick of them, but you've got other holes to fill as well, and this was a guy, known commodity, that you felt like maybe not the best that's going to be available out there, but certainly far from the worst.
And then it leaves you to focus on center and right guard, which are the 2 areas with the older players. Mitch Morse has come in and given you everything he's got, but he's an 11-year veteran. And then Sheriff's a great pass-blocking guard, but not necessarily a drive blocker. And he's gotten older and played with injuries, and you need to find maybe Cooper Hodges can stay healthy in 2025 and take over. He was playing very well before he got injured in Philadelphia, and you're thinking, all right, here's your guy.
But can you count on that?
Well, no, you can't,
right.
Which is why you have to go and find more. The Jaguars have multiple picks. And I always remind people, Mike, of Brandon Linder, who was an 8-year starter here and a 3rd-round pick. Mm-hmm. If you have the right people picking players, you can find those guys on day 2 or 3 of the draft. You don't have to take them all in the first round. You can find those guys. So that's the big area of focus, both sides of the line. Again, I'd like to see more of Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson maybe on the field together over the final 5 weeks of the season. We'll see. Speaking of Walker Little, the new deal last week motivated him to come out and play his best game, shutting down Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. The contract was validation for Walker, who's been waiting for his chance to win the starting job. He didn't miss the moment as he signed on the dotted line.
It was awesome. I was really excited. Obviously, really excited to be able to stay here in Jacksonville. I really enjoy this team, enjoy the city, so I was just grateful for the opportunity.
What have the first couple of weeks in the starting lineup been like for you? And obviously, you had a heck of a game against the Texans and didn't give up a sack or even a pressure. Do you feel like you're getting better day to day?
Yeah, I feel like I've gotten better just kind of week after week. I think I guess it was more different than I thought. Maybe just always subbing in versus now kind of being in the starting lineup. It's really been nice just kind of get comfortable in the position and get used to being next to Ezra and the other guards and stuff. So it's been really good.
Can you put that into a little bit more elaboration? Because the cohesiveness of an offensive line is critical. And when you're not next to the same guy or in the same situation, it really is a challenge. How do you get ready for it?
Yeah, I think it's just obviously just getting reps and time on task just weekly, during the week. And obviously, I think the game reps are so valuable. Just certain plays here and there that you get used to and get good communication with. So, yeah, I just think getting time on task together has really helped us.
You have Mac this week again. Mm-hmm. Tell me about how it's different with different quarterback.
Yeah, I think every quarterback's just a little different. Maybe how they call the plays, maybe how they do the cadence, maybe how they move around the pocket. But he does a really good job. Plays in rhythm, plays on time, and I think he does a good job in just keeping our offense in rhythm. And he's a really confident player, so he's great.
Tell me how challenging the season has been. You've been here and you've seen this thing grow from 2021 into a winning program. This year it kind of went sideways. Where's your mind and where's this team's heart as you go into a game against the Titans on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's been a tough season for us and we haven't won as many games as we wanted to, but going against a division rival like the Titans, obviously we want to play a really great game. You play a lot of these guys over and over again. You obviously never want to lose. So it's going to be a big week for us, big challenge. They have a really great defense, a really good D-line. So we'll have our hands full, but we're ready for it.
Final thought, just walking around this locker room, guys are energized. It's not always that way with a team that's not winning. Why?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we have really great leadership from the top down. I think Doug does a great job. I think the coaches get a great job. Even this year where things haven't gone our way, just keeping it week to week, keeping the goals kind of right in front of us. That we want to go 1-0 this week and just turn things around, get momentum going our way. We think we work hard enough to win, so we're just going to try to prove it on Sunday.
Mikey played well last week against those two pass rushers, and he gets another tandem today. Harold Landry can absolutely get after the quarterback, and we know what Arden Key is capable of. By the way, in the season finale last year, which the Jaguars lost, as we all know, Arden Key had his way with Cam Robinson. I mean, he turned him inside and out, so Walker Little's got his hands full to prove, as you do every week in the NFL, that he's worthy of the deal.
Right, and look, no matter what he does today, you can't prove everything for the next 3 years, but let's just continue. All he has to do is go out there and continue the way he's been playing over the last 3 weeks. I think we're going to be happy with that.
All right, coming up in about 15 minutes, Hall of Famer Tony Baselli and Jeff Lageman join us from the booth at Nissan Stadium. But up next here on the Publix Tailgate Show,
every game is a championship game, and that's how we have to prepare.
That's defensive backfield coach Chris Richard, and we talk about what he needs to see from that unit today against Calvin Ridley. We'll hear from him coming up. This is the Publix Tailgate Show, and you're listening on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Tackle your marketing needs with Kessler Creative. Providing direct mail services for more than a decade, Kessler has a wide range of services from small mailers to large banners and signs. Draft Kessler as your first pick to receive the best targeted mail list. Elevate your business and be on the winning team with Kessler Creative. Kessler Creative, results-driven marketing and proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars. Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in Miami and Houston. Watch them win in Philly, Detroit, Nashville, and Las Vegas. All the other Jaguars games are just one short connection away. And if airport parking has you stressed, be sure to visit the Jax Airport website before traveling to the terminal. On it, you'll find information about the status of on-airport parking in real time. See if your favorite areas are available or if you need to call an audible. Visit flyjax.com for more information.
Jags fans, are you ready to upgrade your living space? Enter for a chance to win the ultimate furniture giveaway. You could enhance your home with a new sectional, queen mattress, or queen bedroom set, courtesy of Furniture Source. One lucky fan will receive new furniture after every Jaguars home game this season. Don't miss out. Enter today by visiting jaguars.com/sweepstakes. Jaguars.com/sweepstakes. Selections will vary by game.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbq.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. drive sober, or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Welcome back to the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios inside the Miller Electric Center in Jacksonville. The Titans and Jaguars kick things off today at 1 o'clock at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. And it's time for our weekly commentary from Rick Ballou.
Oh, boy. Here we go. Nashville, where the 2-10 Jaguars take on the 3-9 Titans. And Jacksonville's trying to get out of the cellar, where, of course, they have finished 4 out of the last 6 years. And that's where they are today. Also, unfortunately for the Jaguar fans, they've lost 9 in a row on the road. Fix it. You got to do that today. One of the best ways for that to happen, do not trail going into half. They have lost 16 games in which that has been the case at halftime. Hopefully that changes for the good guys coming up a little bit later on this afternoon. The recipe is pretty simple in this one. Run the football. Tennessee allowed 267 yards last week to Washington. Tennessee, on top of that, has the top-ranked pass defense in the NFL. Another reason to go on out and run the football. So we get a Mac Jones-Will Levis matchup today. What is encouraging for Jacksonville is the 2 late fourth-quarter touchdown drives that Jones did put together. If Jacksonville can play complementary football, they can pull it off and grab the upset this afternoon.
All right, you can catch Into the Night with Rick Ballou weeknights from 6 to 8 on 1010 XL. Defensive backs coach Chris Richard has had a long season, and there are still 5 games to go. His unit has given up way too many big plays, and a few of them are memorable because they came at the least opportune time for the Jaguars. Still, the energetic Richard has high expectations for his unit over the final 5 games of the season, and he didn't mince words when I asked what those were.
It's coverage intensity. Continue to attack the football. Then start taking it away and tackle. Tackle with violence, tackle with a vengeance, and continue to play the game the right way.
Are you seeing that on the practice field week to week? Is it getting to where you want to be?
Yes, right. And things happen and come in time and in due time. Guys are locked in, intense, paying attention. And ultimately, it just becomes about minimizing and eliminating mistakes, minimizing and eliminating the explosive plays, and just doing things right.
Doug has talked about that from the podium, from the whole team's perspective. How about from your room? The playoffs were eliminated this week. How do you keep a team laser focused? It would seem easy. You're a professional football player. I know it's not always that easy with young men.
Well, it's purpose. Right? Ultimately, we all come in and we all have a purpose. And day one, we recognize that our purpose is to play this game for the people next to us. Again, we all know we have our own separate, whys and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, we're all in this and we're all in it together. And so our purpose is ours and for one another. And that's what we're locked in on.
Seen some young players in recent weeks take step forward. How are your young players progressing as we get towards the end of the season, and what do you want to see from them?
Yeah, just consistency. Continued high level of execution. And now the next step is, again, to become a dominant football player. To become a dominant football player, we have to take the ball away. And so that's ultimately what it's going to come down to. Again, the game's about the ball. It's going to be about our ability, again, to take the ball away. And that's our next step.
Do you want to see more snaps from a guy like Trey Prince over the final 5 games, or does he have to earn it on the practice field?
Yeah, absolutely have to earn it. Absolutely have to earn it. Again, this is a tough league, and nothing's given. Everything is absolutely earned. Again, he's coming to work every single day with his lunch pail, and so he is absolutely putting the work in. It just so happens that, look, there's some guys that have, played for a long time, and they've done things consistently, and in due time is ultimately what it comes down to. So his time will be in due time.
Let's end on this. You've been around this league and seen great success. You've also seen seasons that go off the rails like this one has. What's the difference between teams that get it back and teams that don't? What does this team have to do to make the most of these 5 weeks?
It's just lock in on one play at a time and what we're looking at in front of us. And it ultimately always comes down to preparation and mindset and the recognition that each and every single game is a championship opportunity. And that's how we have to prepare. There isn't one game that's as important as another. Every game is a championship game, and that's how we have to prepare.
And we'll see early if the Jaguars are prepared today when we watch Calvin Ridley, who you heard the defensive coordinator early say has explosive speed. Now, his numbers are not all that impressive this year. 43 catches, just under 700 yards, only 3 touchdowns. But the Jaguars have given up a lot of big plays this year. I think the most explosives in their history, the most in the league this season. So early on, we're going to see. And, Mike, I can remember last year, early in training camp, watching Tyson Campbell line up against Calvin Ridley. This is before we knew how things were going to play out with Ridley. And thinking, oh, this is fun. I mean, this should be a marquee matchup every time they line up against each other in one-on-ones. And it was. I mean, to watch the competitiveness of Campbell and just the raw speed and athleticism of Calvin Ridley, we're going to see that a lot today, I think.
Well, I hope it brings out the best in Tyson Campbell, because we've seen at his best, like when they played Minnesota this year, he did a great job with Justin Jefferson. That is as tough a cover as you'll have in the National Football League, but Tyson Campbell doesn't always consistently play to that level. And hopefully this, the fact that he was teammates with Ridley last year, and it's a division game, and I'm sure Ridley's going to be fired up, maybe talking a little junk out there, that this will bring out that kind of locked-in performance from Tyson.
Now, on the other side, right, everything that we talk about here the last 5 weeks is going to be through the lens of what do you have going forward. That can't be avoided. You have Mataric Brown, who did not play his best game last week. And at times this year, he's looked like a guy, we got something here. We can play with this guy. You got to find out what he is all about. And there are a couple of other weapons that Will Levis will have to throw at him. We may see some of Trey Prince, the 5th-round draft pick from Mississippi. There are some guys you've got to find out about these final 5 weeks.
Yeah, and Monteric, it was disappointing the way that game ended. He didn't engage with Joe Mixon on what ultimately was the clinching first down run. He has been a guy, though, this year who's been willing to stick his nose in on run defense, which made that play all the more surprising to me. But, yeah, as we talked about, Nick Westbrook-Akina is not a high-volume receiver. He's only caught 20 balls this year, but he has become a dangerous red zone and deep threat for this Tennessee Titans team.
He averages 18.3 yards per reception. That's not enough to get him notice at the top of the league, but it should get notice of whoever is lined up across from him today.
And he scored 8 times on 20 catches, so...
They also will have Taj Boyd, the former Bengal, who came with Brian Callahan, and then the tight end, who is a nifty player. I mean, he's not Travis Kelce.
Chigakonkwo took one like 70 a few weeks ago. He's that kind of athlete. He's capable of outracing a defense, but he's just not featured very much in their offense. They don't go to him that much.
So we're going to find out what Chris Richard has in the secondary, and if they, as you heard him say at the outset, are focused on the intensity of coverage from the first play to the last play today at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Well, much more ahead here on the Publix Tailgate Show. At 11 o'clock Eastern, Hour 2, J.P. Shadrick jumps in. Jaguars analyst Jeff Loggeman and Hall of Famer Tony Baselli will join us from the booth next. Titans and Jaguars on deck in Week 11. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show, and this is Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Unlock your potential at the University of North Florida. A beautiful campus with an inspiring environment for learning, UNF is a key partner to Florida's booming industries, providing students with direct access to internships and jobs. Set a new course at UNF and soar into your future. Visit unf.edu to learn more. Sims Crane and Equipment is the Southeast premier crane rental company since 1959, serving Florida, Georgia, and Alabama with cranes up to 800 ton for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is the Tadano rough terrain crane dealer for the state of Florida. Inspired by the past, committed to the future. Choose Sims Crane and Equipment for all of your heavy lifting needs. Sims Crane is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Are you suffering from shoulder pain? If you have clicking and popping in the shoulder joint, persistent pain that intensifies with use, an inability to lift your arm over your head, or a tingling, burning sensation in the shoulder, elbow, or wrist, waiting to see a doctor could make your injury worse. Baptist Health and Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute have innovative and effective treatment options available right now to relieve your pain and restore your mobility. Don't wait. Call 904-JOI-2000.
Want to make sure he gets to the game on time?
Tommy, your uniform is ready. Let's go.
Install a natural gas dryer, and you're guaranteed faster drying times and softer laundry. And now you can earn a valuable cash rebate up to $200 on an energy-efficient natural gas dryer. Show your home love with natural gas, and it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
You say there's nothing quite like the feel of the open road when you ride a motorcycle. You know it takes concentration, knowledge, and skills beyond those required to drive a car. Ride Smart Florida would like to take this opportunity to remind you to enjoy the road, but to always ride smart. S-M-A-R-T. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmet. Ride in control. Train regularly and get endorsed. Visit ridesmartflorida.com for more details. Do you ride smart? This message is provided by the Florida Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the Publix Tailgate Show. Brian and Mike with you from the Hyundai Studios. Kickoff from Nissan Stadium is at 1 o'clock, but we're headed there now because it's time for the first rounds on us.
New York Jets, first-round choice. Jeff Lageman.
Jacksonville Jaguars have selected tackle Southern California, Tony Baselli.
And so Jeff Lageman and Tony Baselli join us from the broadcast booth at Nissan Stadium. Fellas, good morning.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
How is Nashville this morning?
It's cold.
Well, it's a little chilly, but it's probably one of the best days you could have for football. You know, I mean, I think the high is going to be in around 50 degrees.
It's a cold 50, though.
Looks like, it's a cold, moist 50, but it feels like looks like the weather, rain is going to hold off. There's a little bit of rain possibly creeping into the area. I think by 2-3 o'clock. Hopefully, it holds out until after the game, because there's nothing worse than being cold and wet on the field.
All right, guys, let's start with Finding Solutions, presented by the University of Florida, the #1 university in the U.S. News and World Report's #1 state for education. I think I've said this to both of you at various times this season. Nothing the Jaguars have done on offense looks easy, as opposed to some teams that we've come up against that make something look easy. Can the Jaguars do anything? What can they do? How can they make something easy for Mac Jones today going into this final 5-game stretch?
Well, I mean, I think the way you make it easy is, and when it looks easy, is when you can run the ball, because that opens up everything else. It puts a strain on the defense to make choices of how they align and dropping the extra guy in the box and honoring to stop the run. That now is going to open up that play action game, the naked game. You can move the pocket. You can get some easy throws for your quarterback. But when you're not running the ball and you become one-dimensional and you struggle, a couple things happen. One, coverages, are harder to beat. You can play, 2 high safeties. You can do a lot of different things. But you also find yourself in long down and distances and 3rd and longs, and this team struggles on 3rd down. And I think a lot of it is because of the down and distance they find themselves in, Jeff.
Yeah, and it's going to be a challenge to run the ball. I think today, Devondre Sweat's a question mark. The defensive tackle for the Titans, he's had a shoulder issue, and when he teams up with Jeffrey Simmons, those two guys in the middle make it hard to run the football. And look, the reality is that Mac Jones, if he doesn't have a running game, I think he struggles a little bit. If you watch the first 2 games that he started, his feet were never settled in the pocket. This past game, all of a sudden, it looked a little bit better, and I think it worked better because after the whole hit on Trevor, the Jaguars' offensive line, I thought, kind of took control a little bit of the game and started running the ball really well. And then on top of that, their protection was outstanding. And if you don't give Mac Jones a good pocket today, I worry about his performance.
Well, you mentioned Sweat, Jeff, and he didn't practice all week, so let's hope he takes a week off and the Jags can have some success running it up the middle. But when it comes to providing that pocket, Walker Little's a big part of it. How do you think he's played recently, not just last week, and obviously earning himself a contract extension with this team?
I think good. I mean, I think he's a better run blocker than pass blocker, but I do think the last couple weeks his pass blocking has been pretty solid. His sets have been good. He did a great job last week against two good defensive ends. And so I give him, B+, A- performances the last couple weeks. I mean, he's playing good football, Mike.
Yeah, and I think the more he plays, the better he's going to get. He hadn't played a lot of football, right? Hadn't been able to beat out a couple guys when there's been competition. And now the position is his by somewhat of a default situation because Cam Robinson was traded. But look, I mean, he was considered a top recruit, a top prospect in the draft for a reason. And I look forward to watching him get better in pass protection because Tony's right. He does a really good job in finishing in the run game.
Can they keep Parker Washington as involved in the offense as he was last week? Had his probably best game of the year, 6 catches, over 100 yards, and the touchdown. And a lot of that came with Mac Jones in at quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think you have a choice. He's got to be that guy. Brian Thomas, Parker Washington, and tell me who can play next. There's really not a guy. Devin Duvernay is mainly a special teams guy for the most part. Now, will Josh Reynolds play a role? Who they picked up off of waivers from the Broncos. I would have a difficult time thinking that he could have an impact in week 1. But, the impressive thing about Parker Washington is, I always kind of thought of him as a slot receiver, in that mold of Christian Kirk. Last week, Tony, he showed me he can be an outside guy as well. The play, I think the touchdown play that he had, I think was a perfect example of that.
Yeah, what's impressed me about Parker is his improvement in his route running. He's run some really nice routes, and he's not a speed guy, not a burner. But, boy, he's good with the ball in his hands after the catch because he's so strong and physical, and he does have suddenness in his game. So I expect, Parker Washington to be a big part of this offense if they're going to have any success.
All right, let's flip it around. Calvin Ridley, I would presume, is fired up to go against his old team. Not that the Jags did him wrong or anything like that, but people always try to get those revenge narratives going. In a matchup with Tyson Campbell, who's got the edge?
We're going to find out. If you compare the contract, Calvin Ridley's getting paid more. He got a 4-year deal for $92 million, and which is significant. Tyson got a 4-year deal for $76 million. So it's going to be the battle of the big contracts. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure there's going to be plenty of talking going on. And it's going to be friendly banter, I think. But the other guy that I worry about the most in this ball game, Mike, it's not so much Calvin Ridley because I think the Jaguars can give him a little extra attention. It's Okonkwo, the tight end, and Tony Pollard, the running back, in the passing game. That worries me in a game in which the Jaguars have shown in the past that they've struggled to be clean in coverage with tight ends and backs. And Will Levis is a tough guy. He's going to stand in there, and he's young. And if he has easy completions to running backs and tight ends, it's going to be an easier day for him.
Yeah, I think the key is for this defense is they have to find a way to get some pressure on Will Levis because Jeff's right. He's a tough guy, big arm, and he's improving throughout the season. But the one thing that he still has a tendency to do with pressure to make some really dumb decisions and put the ball in harm's way. But if you can't pressure him, that's going to be difficult. It's going to be a long day.
Yeah. His last 4 games have been pretty good, though. He's gotten better, and so look, a challenge for the Jaguars defense because the reality is, Mike and Brian, the Jaguars defense has not been very good this year. Arguably one of the worst defenses in franchise history compared to the 2020 team that they had, and right now they're giving up a ton of explosives. Second in the National Football League, giving up 105 explosive plays. And the reason for a lot of them have been mental busts. And so if they don't play a clean game today against Tennessee, it's going to get ugly.
Well, and, the Jags have had situations this year where they've taken on teams that have been shaky on the offensive line and really haven't produced those big sack and pressure numbers. So it'll be interesting. It'd be great if they got some help from the middle of the defensive line. And with that, Mason Smith back in the lineup last week. What did you see from him, and what do you expect from him, not only today but down the stretch?
Well, I thought he had some good moments, but disappointing in the last drive. He got reached a couple times in a critical moment where it was a 4-minute drill. and kind of surprised that he was on the field at that point. He hadn't been active in 6 weeks, and it's a critical point of the game. You got to get the ball back. The Texans were running a 4-minute offense. He got reached twice, And so, look, when you're trying to stop the run, you can't get reached. You got to be in your gap. You got to make everything very clear for the linebackers. And so that part of it was disappointing.
All right, so for the Jags, I think the specialists on special teams, punting, kicking, long snapping, have been a strength. And it's a shame when you've got to go that deep to really find something that is a consistent strength. But 2 of the 3 out of that trio, Logan Cook, Ross Matisic, questionable to play today. How much would it hurt the Jags to not have either one of those guys?
Well, I think they're going to be okay. The one thing that gives me hope is that we haven't seen any practice squad elevations or anything like that. And Logan Cook is a pro, so is Ross Matisic. Look, the one thing the one part of this Jaguars football team that this year has been really consistent through a lot of the inconsistencies has been the Jaguars special teams. I think that Heath Farwell and Luke Thompson have done a really good job with those units. They've been dependable, and that's, if you're looking for something positive, we always talk about it's a game of complementary football. The special teams has been good.
Yeah, special teams are important, but, Mike, I'll just piggyback on what you said. The fact that we have to highlight that tells you all you need to know.
Exactly. Well, guys, fans of a certain age probably consider the Tennessee Titans the biggest rival of the Jags. Now, a lot of people may be shifting their focus to the Houston Texans after last week, but do you think that this current era of Jaguar football appreciates the rivalry? I know they talked about it in 2022 down the stretch for the final week of the season, but do they understand what this game means to the fan base and just the fact that it is a divisional rivalry?
I think overall, yes, Mike. But I think when you're 2-10, it's just like we just want to find a way to win. Mm-hmm. I don't care who we're playing. It's like you just got to get that taste of losing and try to get something positive going. So whether it would be the Titans this week or an NFC team that we only play once every 3 or 4 years, I don't think it matters today. But I think overall the organization, the team knows that the history of this of the Jaguars versus the Titans, and I think they understand the rivalry.
Well, and look, last game last year. Let's go to that. Okay, Jaguars in the tough part of the season. They're starting to lose a lot of football games, and
when you're in,
they had an opportunity to win and get in. They come here, Tennessee, get beat. So is it a rivalry? You're doggone right it's a rivalry. And this football team better come to play today because I got a feeling the Tennessee Titans are going to be coming to play today.
All right, guys, thanks so much. Have a great broadcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that'll do it for the first hour of the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick is up next with stories and everything you need to know to be ready for kickoff. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
The creamiest, dreamiest, soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. The milkshakes and the sundaes and the cones are such a treat. Look out for the ice cream stand, enjoy it from your seat. The creamiest, dreamiest, soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softy. For refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softy. S-O-F-T-E-E, Mr. Softy.
Hey, Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat. It's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor. So wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 sauces are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And, of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
Brooks Rehabilitation is proud to be the official rehabilitation partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. We are here for them, and we are here for you. Ranked #1 physical rehabilitation hospital in Florida by U.S. News and World Report, our playbook is individualized treatment and exceptional care to get you back to living your life. Brooks has cutting-edge technology and therapy solutions in every care setting, treating sports injury, orthopedics, brain, spinal injuries, and more. Go beyond your expectations with Brooks Rehabilitation.
Hey fans, it's Tyson Campbell, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This season, your game day is getting even tastier with Al's Pizza in the stadium. And every time we get a pick, you'll score. If the Jaguars get one interception, you'll enjoy buy one, get one free pizza at any Al's Pizza location Monday through Thursday after the home game. 2 interceptions, a free dessert. And 3 interceptions, that's a free appetizer. Just tell them you want the Jags pick. Up your game and get your Al's Pizza at the game or any of their locations.
The power of a great team starts with the right equipment, specialized skills, and the training to win. That's why ASAP Dental Care and the Jaguars have the home team advantage. At ASAP Dental Care, we follow our playbook to perfection to exceed your expectations. Count on us to be there for you 7 days a week to deliver full-service dental care. Score a winning smile with ASAP Dental Care today.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues right now.
And it is hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. It's week 14. We're 2 hours away from the Jaguars and the Titans in Nashville. It's a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff time at Nissan Stadium on the banks of the Cumberland River. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Hyundai Studios on the banks of the St. Johns River at the Miller Electric Center ahead of week 14. And a pillow fight of sorts. 3-9 Titans, 2-10 Jaguars today, Mike.
Record-wise, yes, but you better not treat it like a pillow fight or else you're going to get hurt if you go out there today and give it less than full effort. That's just the nature of it. I mean, unfortunately, this Jaguar organization, not all of these players, but this Jaguar organization has learned too much about playing down the stretch and meaningless games. Not the last couple of years, but hopefully this is just a bump in the road, JP, before they get back to winning relevance.
Game day weather is brought to you by the St. Johns River Water Management District. Florida's water, it's worth saving. Currently in Jacksonville, 59 degrees, mostly sunny, a high of 68 today. And in Nashville, Tennessee, there is some precipitation, very little in the forecast. Well, actually, 80% chance of rain today.
Very little.
But a little later today. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff, so the rain is expected after 5 o'clock today, a high of 55 at Nissan Stadium today. Here are some of today's top stories, starting with the 5 games to play. The Jaguars eliminated. And on the Doug Peterson show this week, I asked him the balance of evaluating players, getting players time on the field that might not have had much this year, but still trying to win games.
I want to win these 5 games.
Yeah.
Flat out. I want to win these games. And who's on the field? I don't care who's on the field. I want to win these games. And that's got to be the mindset of our team. I think when you have a little over a month left of your season, and you start pulling guys, but I think you're sending a bad message to your guys that we're waving the white flag. We're conceding, and I don't want to do that. We're crying uncle, and I used that metaphor a little bit in a team meeting the other day. Let's not cry uncle. Let's not tap. Let's not give in. And so I want to win these games.
All right, we'll see how the team responds, of course, and certain circumstances. You got 5 games to go. They're out of it. What's left to play for?
Well, what's left to play for is a lot. I mean, from each individual player standpoint, you're playing for your career. You could be playing for your tenure here in Jacksonville. Doug Peterson could be coaching for his tenure here in Jacksonville. We just don't know how it's all going to play out at the end of the season. But I do think there's a balance you've got to find because, you've got 5 weeks left. And great, we want to win these games. But winning these games is not going to put you in the postseason. It's not going to make you, in my opinion, more likely to win them next year necessarily. So you have to balance that out with you have a guy like Mason Smith who needs reps, who needs to play. You've got a second-round pick invested in this guy. I want him to be able to hit the ground running next year and be a factor and be an impact player. I don't know if he's ready to do that, and I think these next 5 weeks are big for him to get as many snaps as possible. I'd like to see more of Ventrell Miller. I'd like to see more of DeAndre Prince. I'm not saying you sit them down if clearly there's a better option, but Miller a lot of times outproduces Devin Lloyd on fewer snaps. So I don't think you're falling off there. And so it is delicate. You don't want to just signal, hey, we're just going to play the young guys and everybody checks out mentally and we're just trying not to get hurt and get to vacation time. But at the same time, you do owe it to the organization to develop some of these players for the long term.
It is a big opportunity for quarterback Mac Jones as well. Of course, Trevor Lawrence on injured reserve. He's done for the season. So Mac Jones, who has 2 starts this year for the Jaguars, those didn't go so well. And then he also performed in relief last week when Lawrence went down. That went better. Well, he's got 5 games to prove something going into an offseason where he will be a free agent. So Doug Peterson said this week that Mac Jones just needs to be Mac Jones. But Mac was asked this week, Mac, who is Mac?
The people that know me know, I love this game, love to have fun, and I feel like I did that at times on Sunday, and I'm going to carry that to the next, game here, and hopefully the guys around me know that. I think since I've been here, just they know when I'm in the huddle, it's about having fun and letting it loose, so that's what I'm going to do again.
Well, we'll see if he lets it loose and throws it to the right guys when he lets it loose today, and that'll be a big piece of it. They had to rally last week, and he got them down the field a couple times for touchdowns in the fourth quarter when they were down big, and it's a step in the right direction for Mac Jones.
Right. I mean, it's much better than we saw in his 2 starts so far this year. But Brian and I talked about this in the first hour, JP, that, with Mac Jones now in those starts, he didn't know if he'd get a second one or a third one. And here he knows, barring injury, he's got a 5-game stretch, so he doesn't feel like he needs to go out there and prove everything on each individual play. You can live to play another down. Throw that ball away. Don't force it into coverage. And you've got a nice, opportunity to kind of resurrect your stock for free agency next year, whether that's coming back here as a backup to Trevor Lawrence or maybe finding a place where he can compete for a starting job.
Helps with the running game as well, and running back Travis Etienne Jr. is trying to finish this season on a high note. It has been a frustrating campaign for the 4th-year running back.
So I'm not going to take any moment for granted. I'm going to treat this as if it's the first game of the season because I do love the game of football. I'm here not because of the money, but because I want to put great things on film for my family and people that look up to me whenever I'm not around because I won't play football forever. So whenever I look back on this year, whenever I'm 32, looking back on this year, okay, things wasn't going your way, but who were you was? What does your character say about you? It's easy to just give your all when everything's going your way, but who are you when things hit the fan, things are not going your way, and that's when your true character shows.
Yeah, I love hearing from Etienne, but the ripe old age of 32, when he's going to look back at this. But for him, obviously, in the running game as a whole this year, there's been some moments. Tank Bigsby's had some moments. He's got a good yards per carry average, but for Etienne, he's been battling some injury off and on throughout the season and just quite hasn't been able to had the rubber hit the road this year.
No, and, we looked at his rookie season over 5 yards a carry, really fell off last year, was under 4, and that's where he is right now, just slightly better than last year at 3.9. I think the most damning stat, and it's not all on Etienne, he hasn't scored since week 2
It's amazing.
of this season. Right? And, I mean, this is a guy, and he gets opportunities, and it is a reflection on just how bad the Jaguars' offense has been at times, but the running game, it's not like they've had these big gaps to run through, but if they're going to win some games down the stretch, they're going to have to need to lean on it.
Let's go to defense now, and rookie cornerback Jarian Jones ejected last week for his part in the post-Lawrence hit melee, and he explained this week.
Yeah, I mean, that's my brother. I kind of regret like one of the biggest things I regret about it is getting ejected, from the game, not, to be there, for my teammates and stuff like that. But, as far as the whole thing went, that's my brother, and I do the same thing for all 70 guys or however that make up, the Jags organization. So, it's kind of one of those things where, it's kind of, but nah, so yeah.
We know what you mean, Jarian. Thanks. So that's the rookie, and the only fine that came out of this, apparently, reportedly, was Evan Ingram. Got 11 grand for pushing down Aziz. I'll show you.
Well, first, Jarian Jones and many others that came to the immediate defense of Trevor Lawrence gained a new level of respect from the fandom out there. But you're right, JP. He didn't get fined. Which, talking to Jeff Logman after watching the All-22, he goes, you can't find a punch that was thrown. That he thinks what happened was he's trying to get in there, kind of push a guy off the pile a little bit, and he bumped into the referee. And, there's a motion there. But if the NFL felt like he threw a punch, you would think that he would have been getting a fine coming out of this circumstance. And Evan Ingram's the only one. It's almost like they said, you know what, we're not going to pick through this film and try to figure out what everybody did, right? We know what Azeez Al-Shaair did. We know what Evan Ingram did in immediate response, and we're going to call it right there.
Let's finish up with defense and some young defensive linemen looking to get some more time. You mentioned Mason Smith, the second-round draft pick this year, Mike. Last week he got a lot of playing time. And defensive coordinator Ryan Nielsen's approach for him and others up front.
We're going to continue to mix the rotation like we have been. You'll see them both out there, at times, probably by the end of the season. We get 5 games left. And so we're going to continue to mix that position. From Mason particularly, saw a guy using his hands really well. Got off a couple of blocks, made some plays. A little bit of rust. It's been a little bit since he's been out there, but trending in the right direction.
Jordan Jefferson, the other that he's referencing there as well, both out of LSU, might see a little bit more as we go down the stretch.
Well, you hope they can, show that they can be a tandem that can play together a lot of football at a high level for the Jags in the future. And let's just remember, Mason Smith played pretty well last week, but, Walker Little, who just signed that extension, was at one point a second-round pick that kind of muddled along for a few years. You hope it goes quicker for Mason Smith, but just because you don't have a big rookie season doesn't necessarily mean you don't have a big future with this ball club.
Jags fans can't make the game. We get it. You can easily donate your Jags tickets to VetTix military veterans in the community through the Jaguars ticketing account page. Select More on the ticket page and select the game you'd like to donate. VetTix Tickets for Troops. Let's head to Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA. Kainani Stevens standing by at Nissan Stadium as the Jaguars and Titans prepare to match up in Week 14. Good morning to you, Kai. How are things in Nashville last night?
Good morning, gentlemen. Things are good. I got ramen last night. That was delicious.
Because let me tell you, Tennessee is a ramen hotbed. Let me tell you.
It's a little chilly here, so it was perfect ramen weather. But then I went the opposite way and got ice cream after the fact. So, a little bit of both.
Sounds like a pretty good time. Country music last night, Kai? No?
None for me this time, but maybe next time around.
Yeah, it's going to happen every year. Jaguars and Titans are in the division.
Every year.
Nashville. This Jaguars defense, obviously, statistically, is the worst in the league. And overall defense, most of the other metrics are not there. But they do have 2 first-round outside rushers in Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker. The numbers, they're slow going, but they're starting to add up a little bit, Kai. What about their impact? And, that's really one of the only positive things. There's some things going on defense, but these guys on the outside are the guys you really look to find anything.
Yeah, and I think we talk a lot about at this point in the season, right, there's no playoff chances, so we're talking about developing younger players. You also need development from guys like Trayvon Walker. You've seen improvement from him every single year, and this is probably his best season we've seen him because he's one of the few players you have on this team that can go out and dominate the person he's going up against. And you want to see him at this point, 3 years in, taking it to that next level with this team and going with Josh on the other side. Obviously, Josh had his career year last year, but he's approaching the franchise record as well for sacks. So both of them individually have stuff they're playing for, and I don't want to see any regression going into this last month.
You had Trayvon Walker on All Access earlier this week on television, right, Kai? So what's his mindset down the stretch?
He's as motivated as ever, and there's a lot of people who are like, oh, we don't play for this, and he is truly one of those people I believe has self-motivation. I believe they motivate each other. Trayvon's told me a couple different times Josh called him as soon as he got his contract here for the extension with the Jaguars, and Trayvon was like, yeah, it was my off day, and I heard that, and I heard the money, and I said, all right, I gotta go to the gym today. So they're definitely motivating each other, and I think when you have a season like this where maybe you're not getting the defensive line push that you want, having that other person on the other side is helpful. I think Josh can push some things Trayvon's way. And as Jeff Logman broke down in film this week, at the end of that game, unfortunately, the Texans were able to seal it on the run, but they're running away from Trayvon Walker every single time.
Yeah, running left again. Trayvon's on the other side. Kai Stevens joining us from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. All right, we've seen Mac Jones, Kai, with 2 starts this year. Those didn't go so well. We saw him in the fourth quarter last week. It went better. What do we expect down the stretch from Mac?
So I will say pressure being off is helpful to Mac. Just knowing Mac's past and seeing it kind of developed, he he very much, to me, was playing with all that pressure on his shoulders of, I need to play for a contract the first couple of times we saw him. He was playing conservatively. He wasn't throwing interceptions because he's just throwing the ball far away from where anybody would be. So I think a couple of things will help him out. The pressure is off. There's nothing to play for other than his own personal pride at this point, trying to get a new deal. So that is off in terms of having to win. And then also I think what's helping him is, unfortunately, a lot of the starting wide receivers are out at this point. So a lot of the teams, a lot of the people he's had multiple reps with, Parker Washington, we're seeing that connection kind of building better because they worked with each other all year. That stuff's kind of coming together. And then finding a way to get Brian Thomas Jr. involved. They've done a little bit better job of that with the last couple of weeks. And obviously he's such an explosive weapon. If he can get it within a range of Brian Thomas Jr., he should be able to come down with it.
Kai, are you buying a Calvin Ridley revenge game?
I don't see it. He looks pretty happy. I'm watching him right now, smiling. He was talking to Mike McCoy for a little bit earlier. I don't really see it, I think, just because of the way the season's been going. And I don't think there's a ton of ill will there. They gave him a contract offer. He got ridiculous money from the Titans. I don't think anybody can be mad at him taking the deal. It makes perfect sense for him. And we got Brian Thomas Jr. out of the deal, so you really shouldn't be that mad.
That's very true. Kai Stevens from Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Stay warm. Have a good one.
I shall. Thank you, gentlemen.
There she is from Nashville, Tennessee. We're closing in on inactives. About 15 minutes away. We'll get those to you. Up next, though, the voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, on the future of Will Levis as the quarterback in Tennessee. Kickoff at 1 o'clock Eastern for the Jaguars and Titans in Week 14. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub-platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at EverBank Stadium because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over 70 years of authentic Southern Pit Barbecue. We are the local barbecue joint in BBQval for generations of people in Jacksonville. Go to bonosbarbq.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Jaguars fans, huddle up for the best defense against expensive car repairs, CarShield. Score big with the nation's #1 automotive protection company, CarShield. They offer affordable plans covering repairs on up to 5,000 parts and systems in your car, truck, or SUV. Don't miss any Jaguars action this season with a car breakdown. Call 800-471-1223. Coverage varies by plans. View contracts and exclusions at carshield.com.
Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading healthcare and technology organizations nationwide to deliver workforce solutions. CSI prides itself on building meaningful relationships and provides personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your workforce solutions reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
We need to define a great deal in today's new home market because the so-called great deals that you find on every corner just aren't the same as the incredible opportunities you'll find with a new Dreamfinders home. How about 2.99% in year 1 in one of Dreamfinder's 15 communities across North Florida? Now that's a great deal. 2.99% interest rate in year 1 and a beautiful new Dreamfinders home. Visit DFHSalesEvent.com for our largest savings of the year on move-in ready homes. That's DFHSalesEvent.com.
A quality replacement window made with Fibrex material, which is 2 times stronger than vinyl, delivered through a stress-free process. Welcome to Renewal by Anderson. Get the peace of mind knowing Renewal by Anderson handles everything from start to finish. With one call, you'll enjoy working with the best people, exclusive products, and superior process. It's the people, it's the process, it's the product. For a limited time, buy one, get one 40% off all windows and doors, plus 0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for 18 months. Renewal by Anderson. A better way to a better window. Restrictions apply. License number CGC 1527613.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Hyundai Studios. The Publix Tailgate show continues, closing in on Week 14. The Jaguars at 2-10. The Titans at 3-9. It's a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff time. The game at Nissan Stadium in Nashville. Pro Bowl voting and tickets are now live. Be sure to cast your vote for which Jaguars players you'd like to see there and secure your seat to see the NFL's biggest stars in Orlando this February. Jaguars.com/Pro Bowl. Let's go around the NFL.
All right, JP, with the Jags and Titans facing off in Tennessee, the other two AFC South teams had the week off here in Week 14, the final bye weeks of the season. The first-place Texans will sit on their 8-5 record for a week before hosting the Miami Dolphins in Week 15. Houston, of course, will be without linebacker Azeez Al-Shaair for the next 3 games after he was suspended for the illegal hit that gave Trevor Lawrence his concussion last Sunday. The league cited Al-Shaair's, quote, lack of sportsmanship and respect for the game of football as factors in the length of the suspension, which was upheld on appeal already this week. Meanwhile, the 6-7 Indianapolis Colts resting up to make a run at Houston for the division crown. Indy travels to Denver to take on the Broncos next week. The National Football League will reportedly announce plans to play a first-ever game in the city of Berlin in 2025 when they gather for next week's league meetings in Texas. That means Germany will host an NFL game for the 4th consecutive season. The Berlin game, expected to be the only game in Germany in 2025. The teams playing in the game will not be announced until a later date. The Kansas City Chiefs host the LA Chargers on Sunday Night Football. KC will reportedly start their 3rd different left tackle this season when former Arizona Cardinal DJ Humphries gets the call. Humphries tore an ACL last season, and after rehabbing, the Chiefs signed him to a 1-year prorated deal just a couple of weeks ago. KC has the best record in the AFC at 11-1. That includes a 9-0 mark in 1-score games. The Baltimore Ravens, one of 6 teams on a bye this week, but they already know that they'll be without wide receiver Deontay Johnson when they return in Week 15 versus the New York Giants. Johnson suspended for 1 game by the Ravens after he reportedly refused to enter last week's game versus Philadelphia. Johnson has only 1 catch for 6 yards in 4 contests since being acquired by Baltimore in a midseason trade from the Carolina Panthers. And finally, the NFL has reportedly ended its review of sexual assault allegations that were levied against Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson back in September, citing insufficient evidence to support a finding of a violation of the personal conduct policy. This comes after Watson's accuser agreed to a non-disclosure agreement and a civil settlement between the 2 parties and was unable to be reached by the NFL's investigative arm.
There's your look around the National Football League. Mike Keith is the voice of the Tennessee Titans. He has been there since the team moved to Tennessee. Similar spot this year, of course, for the Titans at 3-9 as the Jaguars at 2-10, but both teams out of the hunt here in 2024.
I think we're all excited about everything going on in terms of the NFL and down the stretch, and here we go, and all of the matchups. And I think both of these teams would very much like to be a part of that rivalry, which is December football in the NFL. Unfortunately, we're not. I'm sure for you guys, it's a lot of confusion about why this season has gone as it has, because I know there were expectations. Our feeling in a new era was that it would probably be bumpy, and it has been. And so now trying to figure out how you end this season with the arrow pointing up. And JP, I think that was always the goal for the Titans, is to end 2024 with the arrow pointing up. The Titans still have that opportunity, and that's what they're going to need to do.
All right, to have that arrow pointing up, Mike, quarterback play helps. Is Will Levis the guy for the Titans?
I think we're starting to believe he really is. And he had a rough September, got hurt in a Monday night game against the Dolphins, tried to play post-bye. The shoulder was still hurting him. And so they shut him down. They said, we're going to get you well. And he got well. He had a chance to watch Mason Rudolph play quarterback. He had a chance to spend time with Trevor Siemian in the system and in the meeting rooms. And he's come back and he has played the position of quarterback well. How Brian Callahan describes it, JP, is Will Levis is not calling plays and throwing passes anymore. He's playing quarterback. And that's the part of it that they're very happy with. The stats don't say he played great at Washington, but he played a good game. He had 6 passes dropped. He didn't make big mistakes. He kept the team competing even after it fell behind. He actually had managed the game well enough that with 3:40 to go in the third quarter, the Titans had climbed back to 28-13. They were in the game. Now, it didn't work out. The defense didn't get a stop there, but that's what a quarterback does in the NFL, as you know. I don't have to explain it to you, but from the Titans' perspective, that's what they wanted to see out of Will Levis. They wanted to see him play quarterback, and that's what he's doing right now. Now, it's not over. He's got 5 more games, but as this year-long evaluation goes on, his arrow is pointing up.
Mike Keith with us, voice of the Tennessee Titans. You know, you look at the record, 3-9, and then I'm looking at the defensive rankings in the NFL, and the Titans are second in total defense, first against the pass. Yeah. I mean, really good in all these metrics, top 10 in third down. I mean, the defense has really stepped up and played well. Why is that?
It's a good defense. They have good people. Now, they have some problems due to injury. They've lost 3 of their regular starters in the secondary for the year. Some young guys have played pretty well. They've had some issues at linebacker, traded Ernest Jones. Jack Gibbons got hurt. That was tough. The defensive line is very good. Jeffrey Simmons is a really good player. Tavondre Sweat, the rookie from Texas, has been dominant. The outside linebackers, Arden Key and Harold Landry, have been excellent. So they're really good players on defense. I do think it's a bit misleading because with some of the offensive woes that the Titans have had, teams have not gotten real froggy on offense, particularly in second halves. They've chosen to just run the ball. So you can't say, you know, this is the 2000 Titans defense or the 2000 Ravens or the 85 Bears. But has Denard Wilson done a good job with this unit? Yes. And in situations like in Houston 2 weeks ago, when they needed to shut them down at the end, they did. They shut down a good Houston offense at the end of the ball game, held Houston to 40 yards rushing. Joe Mixon was a non-factor in the game. So it's a good defense. If it's a competitive game, the defense can show what it's all about. And I think that was always going to be a strength of this team. As the offense has improved, I think the defense has been able to be in situations where they could show out a little bit. But in many games, teams have been far enough ahead where they've just been able to play 1974 football in the second half, trying to kill the clock because they knew Tennessee couldn't score enough to beat them.
Well, hopefully you're not screaming sack at the top of your lungs too many times this week. It's always a pleasure to
Do I
visit.
do that? I do that?
If it's not that, it's 99 yards. We don't need that either. So have a great week. We'll talk to you on Sunday.
JP, thanks for having me on.
That's Mike Keith, the voice of the Tennessee Titans, and the full conversation available on the official Jaguars Podcast Network. And up next, a pregame huddle up. Bucky Brooks and John Oehser standing by in Nashville. The inactives are due any minute as well. We'll have those to you when we return. We're an hour and a half away from the 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff for the Jaguars and the Titans. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Everyone circle up. I know it looks rough out there. Sure, we're down 24-6, but we came here to play differently. We need a game changer. Something like Ring Central, the business phone system that's more than a phone. I want you to communicate like you can talk to anyone, anywhere, all from the same app. Now get out there and play like you're using Ring Central.
Ring Central. Simpler communications.
It's the Get Holiday Ready sales event with Hank and Sam from the Ford crew. Today, a new shipment of inventory.
Hank, what's going on?
Another hauler full of new Ford trucks and SUVs, Sam.
So much SUV capability. Is that?
Ford F-Series, the best-selling trucks for 47 years. And a big selection means...
Big savings?
Yep, which means...
It's the best time to buy?
Well done, Sam. And time for America to get holiday ready with Ford.
Based on 1977 to 2023 CY Industry reported total sales.
UNF is a top public university committed to serving the region, a place where visionary minds come together to create effective solutions. With more than 70% of their graduates working in the area, UNF is North Florida's university, offering 100-plus majors, affordable tuition, and programs in high-demand fields. Soar into your future at UNF. Visit unf.edu to learn more. Hey, Jags fans, Extreme isn't always about heat. It's about flavor. And 505 knows flavor. So wake up those sleepy taste buds with 505's new lineup of premium craft salsa. Powered by the bud-kicking boldness of fire-roasted Hatch Valley chilies, 505 sauces are more than enough to bulk up any simple spread. Ignite your sense of boldness with 505's all-new assortment of fiercely fiery flavors featuring 505's new black bean and corn craft salsa. And of course, 505's award-winning flagship flavor, Southwestern style.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from the Hyundai Studios for the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. The Jaguars and the Titans coming up. It's Week 14. Nissan Stadium, Nashville, the site. It's a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff, 12 Central, of course, in Nashville. The inactives are in, and the Jaguars have 6 players down today, including running back Dearness Johnson, inactive today. Rookie defensive end Miles Cole, again inactive. Anton Harrison, right tackle, was not on the injury report this week, but he is inactive for the game today. So that also means that a rookie, Javon Foster, will be up and active for the Jaguars today for the first time. Wide receiver Josh Reynolds was claimed off waivers this week. He is inactive today for the Jags. Cezio Tomewo, defensive tackle, will not play, and rookie defensive tackle Jordan Jefferson inactive. The Jags also elevated wide receiver Joshua Cephas, the rookie, for an opportunity today. Mike?
All right, JP, unfortunately, T'Vondre Sweat will be available for the Tennessee Titans today. Didn't practice all week, and he makes a pretty formidable pair of defensive tackles along with Jeffrey Simmons. But the Titans are without a pair of starting linebackers in Kenneth Murray and Jerome Baker. Also, Jaquan Jackson benched after 5 fumbles this year, and Mason Kinsey elevated off the practice squad to return punts for Tennessee today. Elsewhere, cornerback Roger McCreary, running back Joshua Kelly, cornerback Gabe Judy Lally, and offensive lineman Leroy Watson are the other inactives for Tennessee.
Well, the other Jaguar questionable players were specialists. Logan Cook, Ross Matisic, they are up and active today for the Jaguars as well. Let's go back to Nashville. Welcome in Bucky Brooks and John Oehser for a pregame huddle up. And here we are in Week 14, guys. The Jaguars at 2-10, the Titans at 3-9, and Anton Harrison inactive. What happened? Anything stand out? Have you all seen anything with Anton pregame?
No, we have not seen anything. And if he doesn't show up on the injured report, it kind of makes you think maybe something internally, something disciplinary might have happened, but we don't know. So that'll be a question that Doug will have to answer after the game.
Yeah, or it could have been something in warm-ups. I think we just found out about 5 minutes ago.
Okay, so they're saying that he unfortunately he's sick, so he didn't feel great.
That's what it is.
Feel great this morning.
Hey, it happens from time to time. So Javon Foster will be up today for the first time, rookie tackle out of Missouri. We'll see who steps in there to start. Who would start there at right tackle? You think?
Like that's a good one.
That's a
like,
good
we'll have
question,
to see
right?
how that thing is. Like you
Van
practice
Lannon,
all week.
perhaps. Could you move him out?
Yeah,
I mean,
Van Lannon will have to go outside. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's where you're at. It's tough because you practice one way all week, and then on game day you have to switch it up. We'll see how they can make it happen.
And they've got to block the guys
Hits keep
up
on
front.
coming, JP.
They certainly do. That's what happens at 2-10. The snowball's going downhill, unfortunately. How do you block these guys up front then, especially on the interior with all these guys active today for Tennessee?
I mean, that's the issue that you had inside. These two defensive tackles are two of the best in the game. And they're big, physical. They play with an edge. And the way they dominate on the inside, it forces you to give them added attention, which now leaves your tackles vulnerable. So now we're talking about Anton Harrison not being available. You have to begin to think about what the adjustments will be if you're a play caller. How are you going to protect the edges when you have a newbie, inexperienced player playing for the first time?
Yeah, I think that's the key matchup of the game for the Jags. Can they find a way to get the interior blocked? They haven't really done that all that efficiently very often enough this year. So to me, in writing about this game all week, that's been the one where I just have to call it a matchup advantage because I'm not sure that the Jaguars are going to get the advantage there.
So, guys, we saw Mac Jones play much better off the bench last week than he did in his 2 starts earlier this season for Jacksonville. Do you think without having to look over his shoulder, he knows for the next 5 games, barring injury, he's got a chance to show the NFL what he's got? Do you think he'll play a little bit more freely?
Well, he talked about it. He talked about not putting as much pressure on himself when he went in last week compared to the 2 starts that he had. And maybe he's learned from that. And his desire to kind of want to show his worth to the league, he might have messed himself up by overthinking, overanalyzing the situation, playing tight and not playing carefree. So hopefully now that he knows he's going to be the starter, he can just play and look to have fun and allow himself to just get it going.
Yeah, it was when you think about Mac Jones' NFL career so far, it was sort of the first time he'd been in that situation because he came in and he was the starter in New England, had varying degrees of success, but was playing a lot. And, now, like Bucky said, all of a sudden you come in and you sort of have this one chance. In the first 2 games, he sort of knew Trevor was coming back, so it was now or never time. So, yeah, I think it'll help him. And I also think he is what he is in the sense that I think he knows where to go with the ball. He's not going to have the arm strength to fire a laser shot 25 yards downfield outside the hashes, but he can get the ball to the right guys if they're singled. I think you'll see him throw the ball up to Brian Thomas Jr. a lot and say, hey, you're a guy who can go make plays. So I think you'll see that sort of style from Mac Jones. I think he'll throw the ball deep and give Brian Thomas Jr. a chance.
Bucky Brooks and John Oehser joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. And now to the Jaguars defense, guys. And, all right, where do you begin here? It's a group that struggled, certainly, throughout the season, statistically in most areas. And they're going up today against Will Levis, and a guy that down the stretch in Tennessee, we just heard Mike Keith talking about it, the voice of the Titans. This is a big 5-week stretch for him as well with a first-year head coach. So what is the scouting report on Will Levis, Bucky?
Well, I mean, look, coming out, he's a guy who was super talented, right? Big arm talent, great athlete. We see him, he's muscled up with his arms out and all that. The thing that he is, though, is very inconsistent as a player. He's streaky. He has a tough time with his accuracy. And if you're able to get to him early, he is going to make some costly bonehead errors. The thing about it, though, is he has a lot of confidence, and he does have some toughness. And we've seen him bounce back from poor moments this season with the Titans and play pretty well. So the key for the Jags, you have to make him make plays under pressure because he's blown to blow a gasket. And so if you can get pressure on him, if you can knock him around a little bit, you can change him. But you got to be prepared because he's athletic, he can scramble, he can make plays.
Yeah, I'm up here trying to find Will Levis's arms right now. So
they must not be out.
He went in. They were out. I mean,
they must not be out. Okay,
yeah,
well, I missed it.
Gone. Yeah,
he's obviously the guy that, as Bucky said, everybody knows the book on him. If you can get him to make mistakes, he'll throw you the ball. I think he's, if you're looking at this game objectively, he's the most fascinating storyline because he's got 5 weeks to sort of shape his career. These 5 weeks could determine a lot for this organization. Will Levis people wrote him off in September. They're not writing him off right now, and they're in the situation that the Jaguars have been sometimes in the past with a quarterback trying to figure out what the guy is. I think that above anything else makes the Titans really dangerous today because they're still playing as one, meaning, Will Levis is trying to be the guy. All these guys are trying to prove themselves to a first-year coach that they know is going to be here. This is often a situation where a team starts making some strides and getting some traction. I think the Titans could wind up start doing that today.
And, of course, one of Will Levis's best weapons is the former Jaguar Calvin Ridley. When we see the matchup between Ridley and Tyson Campbell today, when we get that, who do you think has the edge?
Tyson hasn't been available enough to really say that, hey, you feel confident that he's going to be able to lock him up. And watching those matchups, going back to one-on-ones and those things, like Calvin poses a problem just because of the quickness and the suddenness and those things. The key for Tyson is he has to put his hands on people, and he has to make sure that he uses his size and his length to his advantage. But being off injured, you just wonder how compromised he'll be going into this matchup.
Yeah, it would be nice to see Tyson, frankly, finish out the season strong and show that he's going to be available. It feels like that's sort of still the storyline around him. Ridley's a guy that no matter how good the corner is, if Levis has time, he can beat you. He can also not be in the right place. So that's sort of what we saw last year. I think he's still the same guy.
Bucky, favorite country song ever? Go. You're in Music City, USA today.
Favorite country song ever? Man, that's a tough one. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Put you on the spot, John.
I did "Achy Breaky Heart." I've done some line.
Wow.
I've done some line dancing to that before in the Long Branch.
Out of the millions of songs, you cannot
"Achy Breaky
go
Heart."
"Achy Breaky Heart."
Well, I can two-step to that.
Is Miley your favorite too? Come on.
Wow. Any love
Hannah
for
Montana.
Shabuzi? You guys, I watched Shabuzi last night on SNL. He's very good.
I'll take this one, guys. I'll take this one. Poncho and Lefty.
That's a good one.
Wow. That's even too old for you, I think.
My goodness gracious.
What? A little "Achy Breaky Heart"? You don't like that?
So, guys,
I would
look,
expect nothing less.
All kidding aside, what kind of effort and focus do you expect out of this Jaguar team today?
Well, here's what I'll tell you, just based on looking at some of the pregame warm-up, hopefully there's a makeover by the time they go in the locker room and come back out. Because right now there's not a lot of energy and buzz and those things. But it's early. But I would say that there's a stark contrast between the guys that are working out for the Titans and our guys working out, because there haven't been a lot of guys that have been out yet.
Yeah, I think it's sort of two questions, Mike. I think it's the effort. I think you always see effort late in the season. Do you see the right kind of focus is always what I watch for, meaning – are they on the same page? Are they pulling together? It's stuff I've talked about at the end of these bad seasons a lot. We'll find out how focused they are. I can't answer it until I see it.
You heard it here first at 11:41 a.m. before kickoff.
We're going to be positive. We're going to be positive. Next time I have a hit, I'm going to be more positive. I'm just saying, energy's light.
Just got to be truthful, that's all.
Yeah.
It's
well, there's that, JP. There's all that.
There's all that. Beyond that, it's going great. Enjoy, guys. Have a good one.
Guys, thanks.
Bucky Brooks, Achy Breaky Heart. That did not expect that one to come out of his mouth.
Have you heard any Shabuzi?
I have not.
I hadn't either, and had no idea that Shabuzi was a country artist. I knew nothing about Shabuzi. And saw him on SNL last night. He's pretty darn good.
There you go.
It's my current favorite country artist.
This is what we've resorted to.
Shabuzi and Beyonce.
In the Publix Tailgate show. We're back in a moment. We'll get a fantasy forecast. That'll get us back on track. Frank Frangio will join us from Nashville as well. And you can check out the weekly Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks show Wednesdays at 4 on Jaguars.com and the Jaguars YouTube channel. We're closing in on Jaguars Radio Network coverage. Countdown to kickoff starting at noon Eastern. This is the Publix Tailgate show on Jaguars Radio.
It's game time, Jaguars fans, and Publix knows that football is all about pairings. A high-scoring offense paired with a stingy defense. A rocket-armed QB paired with a dynamic wide receiver. And at Publix, you can pair hot deli chicken tenders with savory dips, delicious sub platters with ice-cold beverages, and you can pair these tailgate essentials with an entire parking lot full of Jaguars fans chanting, Duval! Gear up for your tailgate at Publix, the official supermarket of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You say there's nothing quite like the feel of the open road when you ride a motorcycle. You know it takes concentration, knowledge, and skills beyond those required to drive a car. Ride Smart Florida would like to take this opportunity to remind you to enjoy the road, but to always ride smart. S-M-A-R-T. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmet. Ride in control. Train regularly and get endorsed. Visit ridesmartflorida.com for more details. Do you ride smart? This message is provided by the Florida Department of Transportation.
Mr. Chubby's Wings is a whole lot more than just wings. Craving the ultimate game day experience? Look no further. Swing by Mr. Chubby's and indulge in the biggest and best wings in town, all while soaking up the lively atmosphere with fellow sports fans. With plenty of game day specials and locations on the West Side, Fleming Island, Ponte Vedra Beach, and new this season, EverBank Stadium, they're here for all your game day needs. Mr. Chubby's Wings is a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mr. Chubby's Wings, before the game, after the game, and during the game.
It's storm season, and JEA is committed to keeping you informed. In the event of a storm, we'll text and email you about the status of your services. We use Facebook and Twitter to post real-time updates. Our live outage map on JEA.com lets you track restoration progress. And as crews work to restore services, our storm outreach team will be in local neighborhoods to answer your questions. Because as your community utility, JEA is here to keep you safe and connected. Your community, your utility.
What makes that famous call
Dinner's ready!
even better? It's cooking a great meal with natural gas, enjoying faster cooking times and precise temperature control. And now getting a valuable cash rebate up to $300 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas range or cooktop.
Anyone want seconds?
When you show your home love with natural gas, it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
How close can you get with Verizon Access? Front row close. Red carpet close.
Oh my God!
Backstage passes close. Playing quarterback for your favorite NFL team close. Okay, not that close. But watching from the sidelines close? You bet. Get into the experiences you love, like concerts, games, and exclusive pre-sales just for being a Verizon customer. Verizon Access. You're in. Woo! Learn more at verizon.com/access.
This is the Publix Tailgate Show. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Hyundai Studios in Jacksonville, and the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2-10 meet the 3-9 Tennessee Titans. Nissan Stadium, Nashville, the site. It's a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff time. And it's time now for a fantasy forecast. Is it playoff time yet?
Well, some leagues. Depends on the size of your league, but most teams, so most leagues will start their fantasy playoffs in Week 15. So you'll have 15, 16 championship in Week 17. But Week 14, obviously, very important for seeding, trying to get into the postseason, maybe earning a bye in your respective playoffs. And there are a lot of targets of opportunity on the waiver wire this week. At least there were. They're probably not available now. But a lot of big-name running backs will not be playing. Of course, San Francisco plays Christian McCaffrey and Jordan Mason, their top two backs, on injured reserve. And Isaac Guerrero will get the start. He has shined in limited duty this year, so I feel very comfortable placing him in a lineup. He's not going to probably give you McCaffrey-type numbers, but he's going to give you somewhere in the top 15 running backs in terms of productivity, I would expect here in Week 14. San Francisco is hosting Chicago in the late afternoon window. DeAndre Swift and DJ Moore both questionable to go for the Bears in that, but both are reportedly likely to play today in that game. Elsewhere, other running backs out include Breece Hall of the New York Jets when they go up against Miami, which clears the way for Braylon Allen to get probably a larger workload than Hall would have had he been the starter, because he doesn't have Allen to split with. I think Allen makes for a nice running back 2 option this week. Raheem Mostert's out for Miami. All he has been is an impediment to the other guys. He only gets a handful of carries, so maybe Jalen Wright can sneak in as a backdoor flex play. Devon Achane continues to be one of the top running backs in fantasy football there for the Dolphins. And, of course, Kenneth Walker III downgraded to out yesterday for Seattle, so it'll be Zach Charbonnet getting a start for the Seahawks when they take on Arizona today. In the early window, we've had some clarity on some of the questionable players. Malik Neighbors of the Giants will play today, although there is some talk that he could be limited in the amount of reps he gets as he's a little bit banged up. The Saints in that game traveling to New Jersey to take on the Giants have activated Kendre Miller from injured reserve, but he shouldn't be much of a threat to the touches of Alvin Kamara. Philadelphia hosting Carolina. Dallas Goedert not only ruled out for the game, but placed on IR this week. It's a great matchup for tight ends against the Panthers, so if you're desperate, Grant Calcaterra could be an option for you. Coming back the other way, Jatavian Sanders is back for the Panthers, but the wide receiver Jalen Coker has been ruled out today. A little bit of a surprise out ruling on George Pickens. He was listed as questionable for Pittsburgh, but will not play today, and we knew already that Cedric Tillman, still in the concussion protocol now for a couple of weeks for Cleveland, is also out in a rematch of the snow game from a couple of weeks ago. Vegas playing at Tampa Bay. Bucky Irving was the number one running back in fantasy last week, was questionable coming into this game with a couple of different injuries, but he is active and will go today, and he has been getting a bigger share of the backfield, sharing a little bit with Rashad White. For the Raiders, both Zamir White and Alexander Mattison are ruled out. Sincere McCormick is a name that probably not a lot of people know, but he has come on in the last couple of weeks, and I think you could make the argument is the better play over Amir Abdullah coming out of that backfield if you're desperate this week. Jacoby Myers, by the way, was questionable to go with an ankle issue, and he is active today. Dalton Kincaid, questionable to go for the Bills, but reports are early that he is unlikely to play later on this afternoon. And then a big one tonight, Ladd McConkey, who had an excellent game for the Chargers last week, is said to be truly a game-time decision. This is going to come down to the 90 minutes before kickoff. The problem being that it is Sunday Night Football. You're not going to have a lot of pivots to go to, so you have to make sure that you've got another Charger receiver or a Chiefs receiver or somebody on Cincinnati or Dallas that you can switch over to. Maybe Brandon Cooks is still available on your waiver wire after only returning just last week and scoring a touchdown. But if you're going to play McConkey, you have to have a backup plan.
There you have it. Fantasy forecast is in from Mike Dempsey, and we're about 10 minutes away from Countdown to Kickoff on the Jaguars Radio Network, presented by the University of Florida, the number one university in the U.S. News and World Report's number one state for education. Let's head back to Nashville, Nissan Stadium, the site. Frank Frangie is there now. And first off, good morning. Second, Frank, we just heard Bucky Brooks at the end of their conversation with us when Mike asked him about the life on the field. It's like, yeah, they might need to reset coming in. That's the fear down the stretch here, right? Is this Jags team mailing it in, and Doug Peterson's got his hands full, it feels like.
Yeah, good morning, JP, to you and Mike. And look, Doug and I talked about that this week on air on our show, that it's a different challenge now. The playoffs are out of the picture. They really, for the most part, are for both these teams. So everyone's playing for pride, and everyone's got to continue to play. And I think that's something you've got to deal with here. Look, you're away from home. It's cold. It's 50 degrees. I will tell you that sideline reporter Bucky Brooks has already challenged my toughness because I've got gloves on in the broadcast booth. So,
wow.
so we're clear about that.
I am too, by the way.
Yeah, as you should. No, but I think you're right, JP. This is a different mindset for these guys, and you got to find a way to still play when the end season isn't going to be the way you hoped it would be.
All right, Frank, we've seen the good and the bad of Mac Jones. The good coming off the bench in relief of Trevor Lawrence last week. The bad, basically those two starts that he had. Which version do you think we get today and going forward?
Yeah, Mike, I want to believe that he was shaking off the rust a little bit. He clearly was much better last week, and I believe the Jags had gotten a stop. He'd have driven him down for, at the very least, a tying field goal to send it into overtime. So yeah, I think he played better. I think he got the rust off a little bit. I think he's got a little bit of a better feel for it now. I think Mac will be okay today. Now, look, the biggest concern today is the two defensive tackles, Tavondre Sweat, the rookie, and Jeffrey Simmons are really good players. Simmons, one of the best tackles in the league. That's a major concern. The Jags got to block him. I think if the Jags can block and protect Mac, he'll be okay. I don't think he's throwing for 300 yards, but I think he's going to play okay today. So I don't think you're going to see the Mac, to your question, Mike, that we saw those first two games when he looked a little bit overwhelmed and even overmatched. I don't think you'll see that today. I think Mac's going to play okay in this game.
Let's go to the Jaguars defense now. Frank Frangie joining us from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, and we know the rankings of where they are in most of these metrics, and it's not good. And they're going against Will Levis today. but they've kind of carved out some guys. Now, the record's what it is. They're 3-9. But they have some guys that are dangerous, obviously Calvin Ridley. But Nick Westbrook-Akine stepped in, 8 touchdowns on just 20 catches this year, the highest percentage in the Super Bowl era for this guy. And then, of course, Okonkwo. We know the Jaguars' issues with tight ends. So what stands out the most about this Titans offense that Levis has to work with?
You know what's weird, JP? It just feels weird showing up here and Derrick Henry's not here. Right? It just feels different. I'm used to him coming out here and stiff arming everybody and running over people, and it's just a different feeling mindset that 22's not here for the Titans. Look, they've struggled. They're 29th in the league in offense. You talked about the numbers going against the Jaguars, who are last in the league in defense. I think Levis has been up and down. You're right. Westbrook-Akine's had a nice season for them in terms of scoring. Calvin Ridley's got 43 catches on the year. But it's a struggling offense. I think I'd be disingenuous to say it any other way. They're trying to find themselves. They were pretty good 2 weeks ago against the Texans. That's probably the best game Levis has played as a pro. So they feel like here, being around some of the Titans people, JP, that he's starting to find himself a little bit. They're married to him now. They're committed to Levis being their guy, man. Will Levis is their guy. So, but look, they've been a challenge team, and I think the Jags defensively will play well. I think it's a low-scoring game today. I think the winner could be in the teens. I'd be very surprised if the winner goes much beyond 24 points in this game today.
Wow, there you have it from Nashville, Tennessee. And we'll ask you, too, Frank. What's your favorite country song?
I'm not a big country guy, so I probably like all the normal stuff. I like a lot of the Zach Brown stuff. Colder Weather. You like that one, JP? Are you a Zach Brown guy?
Yeah, sure. Put on a campfire. It's great.
How do you like colder weather if you're wearing gloves?
Yeah,
that is a great answer. And Mike, when it was coming out of my mouth, I figured out, I'm kind of conflicting here a little bit, but I like a lot of that Zach Brown. But I'm a big Toby Keith fan. I was hard. It was hard for me when we lost Toby Keith, so I'm a big Toby Keith fan. So there's that. How about that?
Fantastic, Frank. Thank you for that. Frank, have a great game today.
Thanks, fellas.
Frank
we appreciate it.
In Music City, USA. Nashville, Tennessee, the Jaguars and the Tennessee Titans coming up. It's a 1 o'clock Eastern kickoff time, and, we'll see what the Jaguars have today. We'll see what the Titans have today. Who wants it more in a game that doesn't mean really anything in Week 14 in terms of playoff race? Certainly, it's Titans, I think, are still officially in, but the Jaguars certainly
not technically eliminated, but realistically eliminated. And didn't like to hear what Bucky Brooks had to say. I mean, just got to be honest about it, that hopefully the Jags have a reset between now and kickoff.
Well, they've got about an hour to figure it out because it's a 1 o'clock kickoff time, and Jaguars Radio Network coverage and countdown to kickoff is next. We'll have the top stories of the day. We'll get Fred Taylor's take on today's game. And, of course, the final word before kickoff with Jaguars head coach Doug Peterson, as always. Jaguars Titans coming up in Week 14. And thanks for listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.